before we get started, I have provided you with some visual aids below. The thesis statement has been underlined, the topic sentences are yellow, the main arguments that address each topic sentence are green, as is the following discussion of those arguments. In-text sources are in pink and closing statements for each paragraph are in blue. Note, a few minor mistakes have been removed to avoid distractions and emphasize the excellence in language structure and content in this essay. I have made a separate tutorial for the introduction and conclusion, so I'm going to go straight to structure and content in paragraphs. First of all, structure. Notice the centered title, and it's in the same font as the rest of the text with no space below. Notice the thesis at the top here. Black voters have faced and still face voter suppression, but nonetheless, their votes were crucial in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Let's now take a look at the three topic sentences. Black men were granted the right to vote after the 15th Amendment was added to the U.S. Constitution. At first glance, my comment was that I think this topic sentence could open for a little bit more discussion, and yet with the next sentence and source, the writer has actually provided that added angle. However, laws and practices were quickly put in place to deter them from voting, thereby decreasing the number of registered Black voters by 99%. So this is one way to get around it, but ideally, I would have a little bit more of an angle, and as this writer has done in the next topic sentence, if we scroll down a little bit. Note the next topic sentence. The 2020 U.S. presidential election was not exempt from voter suppression, which heavily affected Black voters. This, to me, is a clear topic sentence. I'd like to move on in this paragraph to show also arguments and sources and the closing argument as well. So continuing on, with the COVID-19 pandemic raging through the U.S., killing thousands in its path, experts had declared voting by mail as the safest option. However, this did not come without its challenges. Months before the election, President Trump started spreading mistrust and fear regarding mail-in ballots, going as far as to call them fraudulent and dangerous. Notice this discussion and also this pointed to COVID-19 pointing to something else that's going on at the same time, which is also quite elegant. So moving on. Disputing this, the head of the Federal Election Commission claims there is no basis for the conspiracy theory that voting by mail causes fraud. This is a good use of a citation because it actually points directly to these claims by President Trump of danger and fraudulence. Okay, so I think this is a good use of a source in the text. Regardless of the truth behind Trump's statements, this anti-voting by mail strategy meant that in certain places, ballot drop-off sites were limited to one country. This would mainly affect more densely populated urban areas that are mostly Democratic and typically less white. So this good discussion of this problem that we're looking at, this pointing back to the topic sentence. Additionally, election officials had been pressured to more rigorously examine ballot signatures for discrepancies that could disqualify them. This in itself is such a strong statement that it's good to add it because it shows these specific problems. These efforts made it more difficult for people of all ethnicities to ensure that their mail-in ballot would be counted, but statistics from North Carolina show that Black voters' mail-in ballots are more likely to be rejected. And then you have that specific citation. So moving on to the rest of the discussion. This is not necessarily a one-time occurrence, as former research also shows that first-time voters as well as minorities are more likely to have their ballots rejected. Note how the writer is referring to other sources she has read and actually drawing this as part of her argumentation. As of right now, it is too early to determine what has caused this discrepancy in the latest election, but experts point to lack of knowledge needed to fill in the ballot correctly. Regardless, the numbers are concerning. Notice this argument here. The numbers are concerning. Furthermore, not informing and educating voters can be seen as a form of suppression in itself. Good argument. So let's take a look at a closing argument. We made just slight changes here. Yet against all odds, African Americans showed up in record numbers this year to give Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the victory in the United States presidential election. So notice this blue summarizing, pointing back to the topic sentence. So I remind you of the thesis statement now. Black voters have faced and still face voter suppression, but nonetheless, their votes were crucial in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. So let's take a look at her final topic sentence. All right, although Black people faced voter suppression in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, their votes became salient in the results of the election. So this direct link from this topic sentence back to the thesis, helping me, the reader, along, reminding me what she's talking about. And then in general, voter turnout was higher than usual this year. She put a source there. You don't have to do that. You could actually start with discussion, but this she uses it to continue her discussion. This should not come as a surprise given the heated political climate. Notice this reference to other things that you've learned this year about this partisanship between the Democrats and the Republicans. All right, this is a PDF that you can read on your own, so I'm going to stop here. Perhaps just read the final argument. Much evidence suggests that Biden might not have been elected the next U.S. president without the overwhelming support of Black people. Again, moving to their the saliency and the results of the election in the topic sentence, and also leaving me, the reader, with closure. I'm finished with this paragraph. I'm ready to move on. Okay, and this is a tutorial for how to provide discussion in an essay with making sure that arguments, discussion, this green color is what mostly is the main part of each paragraph, which you see here. I hope this helps.